Hey guys, welcome to Inchina. I'm Lin. A study about civil honesty around the globe just came out, published on Science. The result surprised the public, well, especially us, because China ranks the last and became the most dishonest country. I read the paper and the experimenters prepared a lot of lost wallets and tagged them in more than 300 cities of 40 countries. And they give the wallets to the staff of some social institutions such as banks, hospitals, hotels, and theaters, and they counted for the number of people who contacted the owner according to the information in the wallet. Of course, there are some details about the design of the experiment. If you're interested, you can search for the paper online. Until now, this news has triggered much discussion on Chinese social media, so I decided to select some comments to show you how Chinese really think about this issue. Most of the comments are selected from Zhihu, the Chinese version of Quora, the last place we need to worry about freedom of expression. So sometimes we think about the international issues in our own way, so I think it may be interesting to show you guys. Alright, the first comment is from someone you're all familiar with, Alipay. It says this experiment can only show that when there's no money in the wallet, Chinese experimental group had a lower probability to contact the owner. But it doesn't mean that China is more dishonest than other countries. Well, it sounds boring, but I chose it as the first comment because it stands for the most common view of Chinese against this paper, which is the result of this experiment has nothing to do with honest or not, at least not in China. By the way, for Chinese people, Alipay is more like their wallet because few Chinese would bring cash with them when they go out. Okay, let's move to the second comment. It says, generally speaking, in China, if you lose a wallet, there will be 3 steps to follow. Go back to the location to look for it, consult the management staff, and go to the police office. Okay, and he says this path can basically be regarded as a common social behavior pattern, which I agree. So most of the relevant staff also think as long as the owner really wants the wallet back, he will follow along this path, so there's no need to spend extra money or time to contact this owner. So his point is inactive and dishonest are not the same concept. So again, it's the question raised by Alipay, the process of this experiment, handing over the wallet to the staff and waiting for them to write emails, how much of it relates to dishonesty? Okay, let's continue. And this user says, a lot of us focus on discussing Chinese don't use emails. I think it is pointless. First of all, you just know that Chinese seldom use emails, but you don't know the situation of other 39 countries. What if they write emails less than we do? How to explain that? Well, this comment is quite rational. We know the information left in the wallet in this experiment to contact the owner is an email address. So lots of Chinese may claim that we don't have the habit to write emails. So why don't you just leave a WeChat ID? So maybe China will rank first. Then he points out the indicators used in the paper needs to be more comprehensive, such as it didn't take the density of population into consideration. Wow, that sounds professional. According to the graph he made, this indicator has much influence on the result of experiment. So he indicates that the paper needs some modification. Well, the next comment sounds professional too. He says the amount of samples in different countries are not reasonable at all. Okay, there's some data, and I noticed that the samples delivered in China and the UAE are both 400. But Chinese population is like 100 times more than that of UAE. Wow, I'm also confused about that. And why are samples in the US and the UK is about 1,000? Shouldn't be based on population and land area? The fifth one, I was a little dumb when I saw this ranking list. And how come Chinese can be more dishonest than Americans? Mr. Trump has taught us a lesson. Well, I have no comment on this one. Donald Trump has taught a lot of people lessons, and obviously people in different countries like to make fun of him. The next comment quotes part of the instructions of the paper, which explains why they didn't do the experiment in Japan, and says that this part in the paper made me laugh. You guys skip Japan because of some specific local circumstance. Then how about China? Well, that's what I'm going to say. Next one. Well, this user is quite brave and inspiring because he made contact with Ellen Korn, the first author of this paper, and she asked it about the impact of email usage on the result. Because according to CNIC, the email usage rate of Chinese netizens is only about 35%. And then Professor Korn replied to her and he was like, message received, but it was difficult to obtain data in different countries. So the user says the result of communication is quite disappointing because the author has no plan to take responsibilities even though he realized the big issue on the data. The following are some short comments. Let's just check this one. I can't believe this kind of paper can be published on Science. So if I compare the scores of SAT and the race of candidates, then come to a conclusion that the black are less intelligent, should it get a cover of Science? You guys know that he's just making a joke, right? So don't take it seriously about the race. Well, this one is quite funny. He said Spain, which almost went bankrupt because of the debt crisis, is in top 5. Wow, if you really have so much honest, why don't you just repay some money firstly? This paper proves again politics is always in charge. I do not dare say something about this one because I am still in China. Okay, the next one. It's not the tragic of China, it's the tragic of science. To be honest, I have never heard of science before this news came out because I majored in literature. Check this one. This paper is just academic rubbish. Wow. It's definitely Pride and Prejudice. The circumstances of Japan, Korea, and Singapore are close to China the most, but these 3 countries are not included into the survey. Well, that makes sense. Can science answer this question? The next user raises a question. After the experiment, did them go back to the institutions to make sure what happened to the wallet? Because there are several possibilities. Maybe it had been taken away and kept by the staff. But in China, if you go back to check, there is a large probability that you will find it in some drawer. There are lots of other interesting comments. Sometimes I even admire the intelligence. Of course, some of them are too aggressive or maybe one-sided, but most of Chinese people I checked online think that you may say Chinese culture and habits tend to be passive and conservative, but you cannot just conclude that Chinese people are dishonest. Again, it's a matter of cultural environment and a behavioral habit. If the author put it into another way, just express the result in numbers, there will be so much less controversy. But perhaps it won't get published on Science. I don't know if you guys pay attention to this paper. I saw some articles about it on Wall Street and something like that. Anyway, feel free to discuss your impression about Chinese people with me. Okay, that's it for today. See you next time.